People who work in HR, what's the wildest thing you've discovered that led to a firing in the course of your career? I heard a story of a guy using an unmarked company car to run Uber Eats and DoorDash all day. He got away with it for a couple years. He finally got caught because he was using his work phone for Uber and his data was astronomically higher than anyone else in the company. If he had just used his personal phone, he probably could still be going. Apparently, my predecessor did something similar, working a construction/maintenance job where we regularly are just waiting for something to happen at one of the job sites we are responsible for maintaining, and this guy just went out and did Uber Eats and DoorDash for most of his shift. That would honestly have probably been fine if he had even a bit of sense about it and only done it when we were in our periods of fairly frequent downtime. But we work in pairs, and this dude would apparently show up on time, be always looking at his phone, and even when we had minor or major work to do, just fucking leave his partner and go do orders and come back like an hour or so later. We had a bunch of days where we'd finish as much as 6 hours early and he could have absolutely made tons doing delivery and being on call. But nope, dude was committed to just not doing almost any work for the job that, and this is what blows my mind, paid generally higher without any overhead costs so that he could continue with the door dashing simultaneously. Years ago, I was covering as both HR and LP manager for a district in a now defunct retail chain. The stores carried a variety of adult magazines, also now all defunct. Overstock for these lucrative and quick-selling products were in a storeroom. There was a very small, for the time, camera in the room. One day, I was reviewing footage at a store and Z was idly watching an assistant manager restock after closing. Then something odd happened. He was taking one copy of each adult magazine, opening it to a photo spread, and laying it down on the floor. Soon, there was about 15 magazines spread out. He left for a moment, and then returned in view of the cam completely naked. Then he laid down on the magazines and started rolling around and, well, you can guess what happened next. I met with him the next day and said, "I need to let you know there's a camera in the magazine storage area." He stood up, said okay then, and walked out of the store. I ended up putting him our system as resigned, and didn't dispute his unemployment claim when he filed. I went ahead and told the next person who took over the restocking job that a camera was there before he even touched a single magazine. This sounds like such a George Costanza thing to do, and a perfect George reaction to the news. Was that wrong? Should I not have done that? I gotta tell ya, I gotta plead ignorance on this thing because if anyone had said anything at all when I first started here that sort of thing was frowned upon, you know, cause I've worked in a lot of offices and, I tell you people do that all the time. Car dealership. Co-owner of the company had a used car lot he had registered under a friend's name. The big dealership would take in used cars, he'd pay a technician off the books to give it a bad inspection so the car would go to auction. He'd use the other company to purchase the cars for dirt cheap and sell the cars at a huge profit margin. Essentially got our KBB rep fired because she was evaluating trade-ins as being in good condition, but the inspections would all come back bad, so in the company's eyes, she was terrible at her job and paying people way too much for their trade-ins. They started to catch on when they realized close to 40% of all the trade-ins were getting poor inspections, so they implemented a system where 2 technicians each did their own inspections. Suddenly, not so many cars were getting poor inspections. Then it all unraveled when they looked into it deeper and realized every single bad inspection came from one technician. In total, they estimated roughly $400,000 in profit had been stolen from the company over the past couple years. It was pretty messy. What happened to the Kelly rep? So, she had gotten let go quite a while before everything went down. Took a job at another dealership and all was fine. The owner of the company is a good dude who trusted the wrong guy to make his partner. The shady co-owner had worked there for like 25 years before he was brought on as partner and was supposed to succeed the owner when he retired. Owner was really heartbroken about the whole thing. I don't blame him. He built that company up from nothing, pays his employees very well, and never hesitated to toss extra money in people's paychecks when they were in a tough spot. Nobody ever asked for it. Like, one guy's wife had severe complications while giving birth and it racked up some heavy hospital bills. Owner took a pretty large sum of money from his own bank account to help them out. I've worked at several dealerships, and that one was by far the most reputable and honest one I've seen. It's a real shame that other scumbag took advantage and used the company as his own bank. We had an employee who would clock in at the time clock every day and then go home. They'd come back to clock out for lunch and back in after an hour, then come back at the end of the day. It was impressive how long it took a manager to catch on. I had a cousin do that at a Walmart for many months. It was almost impressive. There was someone who clocked in at Toys R Us every morning, then drove to their other job, coming back to clock out 8 or so hours later. It was when TRU was closing. No one caught on. Seems weird that could happen. Wouldn't everyone at least have an immediate boss who would know they weren't there right away? So, I used to work at a software company and we kept getting complaints about a nap room being cluttered and trash from the nearby break room being left around in the mornings, so we asked security to do some late evening walk-bys to see what was going on. One evening, they found a young Asian woman hiding in the nap room. She didn't work there and she didn't speak English. It was super weird. It turns out, one of the software engineers who worked in the building had purchased a mail-order bride. But here's the kicker, he was already married. So, unable to bring his new mail-order bride home, he kept her at the office. No idea where she hid during the day, but at night she made good use of our little nap room. Gotta feel bad for that poor woman. We had a little privacy room at a job I had. It was meant for personal things that didn't belong in the bathroom, like breast pumping or administering insulin. We had a very small white woman who showed no outward signs of being Muslim, e.g., no headscarves, ate pork fried rice every day, drank at company events, etc. But we can't really judge on that, who said she needed to do her prayer 5 times a day and during work hours she would pray in the privacy room. I wasn't like HR or anything, but my cubicle was right there. Someone was trying to go in to pump, and the door stayed locked. The company was very gossipy and I was right there, so I heard it all. After an hour of waiting, they realized her computer had actually been inactive for over 2 hours. They opened the door and there was immediate yelling and I'm like, WTF, so we are all gawking. There was heroin and paraphernalia out and she was knotted out in the privacy room, sleeping. They still had to go through all this legal process and fired her a few days later. She still showed up those few days. My friend worked IT support for a hospital. They would have the ability to remote desktop into employees' laptops even without authentication from the user, but was only supposed to be done under special circumstances. He had an urgent ticket which required a remote login, but the doctor was completely unreachable, so he ended up just connecting to the laptop. Turns out the doctor was watching porn at that very moment, and he immediately logged out, hoping nothing would come of it. Apparently, the doctor reported the situation, landing them both in trouble. Hey, maybe the doc was just doing anatomical research. Maybe he was trying to determine the safest way to pull a Gatorade bottle out of an anus. I have a few. One person decided OT would be a good idea to fill their water bottle with vodka and get shit-faced at work. So much so that they fell down the stairs, passed out, shit themselves, and then got belligerent with the cops. Put her on unpaid leave and LCA to go to rehab, but she didn't believe she had a problem. She failed to complete rehab and got fired. 2 paramedic punched a restrained patient in the face. Hard. 3 had an AC mechanic embezzled about $20K on the company CC buying AC units for friends, his kids' hockey fees, etc. Didn't think it was a big deal. 4 had a tech steal a customer's purse while doing an install. Found out because her ID card was located, and we got the camera footage from the gas station he stopped at to refuel the company vehicle, and also his girlfriend's on the company dime. He denied it, even though it was very clearly on camera. A guy got caught smoking weed in the bathroom. He only got fired because he had it on premises. If he would have said I'm taking a quick break or just disappeared to his car for 2 minutes, took a few hits, and came back inside, he would have been fine. Was there for 20 years up to that point. I know a guy who recently got fired from a construction job because he was holding a ladder for the owner of the company, and when the owner felt the ladder wobbling, he looked down to see this guy was lighting a bowl with his arm wrapped around the ladder. This guy hasn't been making very good self-medication decisions lately, and we're all really worried about him. One of the salespeople has printed their new offer of employment from a direct competitor from a company laptop on a company printer and forgot it there. She was not the sharpest tool in the shed. All of her stuff got immediately locked, and she had also tried to download the whole client database and send it as attachment from her work email to her private one. All this happened in one day. Long time ago, I was an IT contractor working for a large company. There was probably about 20 of us on this one team that were all contracted by an IT staffing firm. It came to light that one of my colleagues had been previously fired as a high school teacher for a scam where he would go to his students' place of employment, Target, Best Buy, etc., and steal a bunch of shit in exchange for giving them good grades. When this happened, it was revealed that the IT consulting firm had not run background checks on any of us. The company we were working for called us into an office and said that they needed to do background checks on all of us, and if there was anything to disclose, now was the time. No one said a word. In the next 2 weeks, one guy was let go because he had done time for mail fraud, another guy for assaulting his ex, another guy for getting kicked out of the military for attacking a senior officer, and another guy, who was a former police officer, who it turned out was under indictment for allegedly molesting an underage girl in his squad car. That was an interesting month. Share your stories in the comments. Thanks for watching. Click and subscribe to the channel. See you guys soon.